"Beat me in chess, I'll kiss you now," the CEO mocked, until the single dad ended it in 3 moves. Began like a dare you hear in a movie, the kind that sounds like a joke until it cuts your life open and pours the truth out. The tower on Harbor Avenue was quiet that night. The 42nd floor was a glass island in the sky, catching the glow of the city like a bowl catches rain. Inside, the room was big and cold. The air smelled like lemon polish and late hours. A long table sat in the middle, and at the end of it a chessboard rested like a small city made of wood. Aurora Vale, the CEO of Vale Therapeutics, sat with her back straight and her jaw tight. She was 35, sharp and tired, the kind of woman who could make a room listen by just lifting her eyes. Her hair, pale as wheat, was pulled into a low knot. She wore a black sweater, black pants, and the kind of calm that people buy with fear. She had been staring at the chessboard for an hour, trying to solve a puzzle from an old book. Her father had loved this kind of problem. He used to set them for her on weekends, coughing into a cloth, smiling through pain. "If you see the line, you see yourself," he'd say, moving a queen with hands that shook. She was alone with that memory when the door slid open and a man in a gray custodian uniform rolled a cleaning cart across the threshold. He froze when he saw her. "Sorry, ma'am," he said softly, the word bent with respect. "Didn't know anyone was still here." Aurora did not look up. She kept her eyes on the pieces. "Do you play chess?" she asked, her voice even, almost bored. The man, tall and lean with dark hair and gentle eyes, pushed his cart closer and glanced down. His badge said Noah Reyes. His hands were clean but dry, the kind of hands that worked and worried. "A little," he said. She smiled in that thin way people do when they are testing themselves. "Not you." "Beat me in this position," she said, "and I'll kiss you right now." It was one of those sentences that sounds cruel because it is easy and dangerous at the same time. The room felt smaller. Noah blinked once, then stepped nearer to the board. He did not touch a piece. He looked. He took a slow breath, then moved a knight. Aurora's eyes narrowed. He moved a rook. Her fingers hovered. He moved a bishop and spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Checkmate." The word hung in the air like smoke after a match is struck. Aurora's hand froze above her fallen king. For a second she could hear only her pulse. Then, without a smile, without anything except the promise she had made to herself, she stood from her chair, walked around the table, placed a hand on the sleeve of his uniform, and kissed him. It was not long. It was warm and simple and real, like stepping under a hot shower after a winter day. When she pulled back, she said, "Now you can get back to work." He did not move right away. He looked at her with something that was not pity, not pride, and not fear. "I think," he said, "you just did something brave." Then he pushed his cart away. He said, "Good night, Miss Vale," and left the queenlit room. After the door clicked shut, Aurora stood still. She had made men cry in meetings. She had ended companies with a single email. She had been called ruthless and brilliant and cursed and cold. But for the first time in years, she felt her armor loosen. She touched her lips. The chessboard looked different now, as if new streets had been drawn across the map. She lifted her king and turned it in her fingers, and it felt like turning a memory she wanted to change. Somewhere 6 floors down, Noah Reyes hung his jacket on a hook and checked his phone. A photo of a little girl stared back. Mia, 8, with a gap in her teeth and a sparkle in her smile. Noah texted her a moon emoji and a heart. Then he opened the old app he never deleted, the one with all his past chess games. At 17, he had been a name people said with hope. Newspapers had called him a prodigy. Coaches had promised a future with trophies and flights and soft chairs in quiet rooms. But life does not play like a book. He fell in love with a girl named Lila at a college tournament in Boston. She laughed too loud and wore a coat 2 sizes too big. They got married. They had Mia. Then Lila coughed and kept coughing. The doctors said the words that make families sit down. Stage 3. Noah quit the circuit, sold his medals, and learned how to live in hospitals. He worked nights so he could be there in the mornings. He changed jobs until he found one with the insurance that would keep his child breathing. Lila fought for 4 years. She died in March with her hand in his and her voice saying, "Take care of our girl." he has been taking care ever since. He still played chess in his head, on lunch breaks in the quiet places between worry and work. He taught Mia the names of the pieces and told her, "Every piece matters, even the ones people do not see." Aurora did not sleep. In the morning, she pulled up the employee directory on her screen and found Noah's file. Name, Noah E. Reyes. Age, 39. Department, Facilities. Hire date, 11 months ago. Emergency contact, MIA Reyes. She scrolled farther and stopped. Under Previous Employment, Professional Chess Player, USCF Peak Rating, 2432. It might as well have said, used to be a comet. She opened a browser and searched. Old games appeared, like bottles floating up from the bottom of a lake. A story from years ago. Young player leaves tournament to care for sick wife. A photo from a high school gym where he held a trophy taller than his pride. Then the trail ended. No new medals. No new press. Just silence. Aurora closed her laptop and stared out at the city. It did not feel like hers anymore. It felt like something she had borrowed and broken. She left her office that afternoon without saying where she was going. She told herself it was a floor check. She never did floor checks. She found Noah in the break room on 38, teaching the night guard, a woman named Priya with kind eyes, how to set up a queen's gambit. He was patient. He used simple words and gentle hands. He made the game sound like a story. When Aurora stepped inside, he looked up and smiled. Not a mock, not a bow, not a flinch. Just a warm hello. "Miss Vale," he said. She nodded as if her heartbeat were not tapping against her ribs. She took a paper cup of water and left. A truth had been born, and truths are babies at first. They make a mess. They demand to be held. 3 nights later, just past 11, Aurora crossed the parking garage with her keys in her hand. The floor smelled like oil and rain. The lights were too bright. Somewhere in the concrete echo, a scream peeled the night like an orange. It was small and sharp, the sound of a child in trouble. Aurora ran. She found Noah on his knees next to a little girl. Mia's lips were blue and her chest was pulling for air that would not come. An inhaler lay on the ground like a toy that could not help any more. "Breathe, baby," Noah begged. "Breathe." Aurora did not think. She called 911 with a voice like a silver knife. She gave the address, the corner, her name, the rooftop helipad, the words that opened doors. She dropped her coat, a white wool one that cost too much, and wrapped it around Mia. "In through your nose," she said, kneeling. "Out through your mouth. Listen to my voice. You are safe. You are safe." The siren grew closer. Noah's hands shook as if they belonged to someone else. The minutes were heavy. Then the ambulance was there, and 2 paramedics were there, and Mia was on a gurney with oxygen and numbers and calm hands. Noah climbed in and said, "Thank you," like the words were the last dollars in his pocket. The doors closed. The sound of the siren slid away. Aurora stood alone in the bright, ugly light, her hair a mess, her eyes wet, her heart beating like a fist. She sat in her car for a long time, staring at the steering wheel the way people look at a road they do not want to drive anymore. The world she had built felt like a glass wall. She had money, power, a calendar full of meetings, and a hole in her chest that had never closed after her father left. That night, for the first time in many years, she cried in a way that made her shoulders shake. The next morning, she carried 2 black coffees and 1 hot chocolate into Mercy General Hospital. She stopped in the gift shop and bought a stuffed fox because none of the rabbits looked brave enough. She found Noah dozing in a chair as Mia slept with a clear tube under her nose. "Are you the fairy godmother?" Mia asked when she opened her eyes. "No," Aurora said. "Just a friend." Noah stood up out of habit, then sat when she waved her hand. "You didn't have to come," he said, voice rough with a long night. "I wanted to," she said, and put the hot chocolate in his hand. Over the next week, she returned again and again. She brought a small magnetic chessboard and set it on Mia's tray. She brought coloring pages with castles and knights. She read aloud from a book about a girl who learned to play chess in a school basement. Mia laughed at the funny voices. Noah listened from the hard chair by the window and smiled the way people smile when they see spring after too much winter. He told Aurora about Lila and the years of treatments and the nights of fear. He told her about selling trophies to pay for medicine. He told her that he worried about the day the insurance stopped working, like some terrible machine that breaks and says, "Come back later." Aurora did not give him easy words. She gave him time and quiet and truth. One evening, as the machines hummed and Mia slept with the fox tucked under her arm, Noah walked Aurora to the elevator. "Why are you doing this?" he asked softly. She looked at her reflection in the doors. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were tired. She did not look like a CEO. She looked like a person. "Because I don't know how to stop," she said. He nodded like that made sense. "You are not what I expected," he said. "Neither are you," she said. The doors opened. Noah said her name for the first time, not her title. "Aurora," she turned. "Thank you for seeing us." The doors closed on the word us, and it stayed with her like music. The internet broke 2 days later, as it does when something human gets caught in its teeth. An accountant named Vince filmed the chess moment through the glass and posted it on the company chat with a joke. It jumped from there to the places where the world shouts. CEO kisses janitor became a storm in 12 hours. People wrote love, hate, and everything between. Some said it was sweet. Some said it was a stunt. Some said it was cruel. Some said it was a fire and asked who was going to burn. The board called an emergency meeting. The PR team wrote statements like bandages, white and sticky and not very helpful. Reporters waited outside the building with microphones like fishing poles. Aurora watched the video on her phone again and again until her throat felt raw. She did look mocking in that clip. She did look like the kind of person who points at a ladder and laughs at the person below. Her assistant buzzed. "The board is waiting," he said. She said, "Tell them I'm handling it," and closed her eyes. That evening, she found Noah on the 6th-floor break room, folding his uniform into a cardboard box. He wore jeans and a faded band T-shirt. The room smelled like stale popcorn and metal. "Are you quitting?" she asked. He looked up without anger, just tired air around his face. "I'm not sure yet," he said. "But I can't be the story you need to fix your story." She stepped closer without knowing what she would say. "You think I leaked that?" he asked quietly. "You think I want to pay out?" She opened her mouth and closed it. He shook his head. "You beat everything, Aurora. You beat markets and rivals and silence. You don't beat your own pride." He walked past her and into the stairwell. The door sighed shut. She stood in the humming light and understood that knowing the right move doesn't help if you are scared to touch the piece. 2 nights after that, at 2:17 a.m., Noah's phone buzzed as if it were alive. He was awake already, listening to Mia's breathing like a guard listens to a gate. The sound changed. It turned thin and tight. He tried the inhaler. It did nothing. He lifted his daughter into his arms and ran for the car. The streets were empty and mean. He drove through red lights and did not care. At a stop, his phone pinged again with a message from his insurance app. Coverage suspended pending review. Estimated resolution, 5 to 7 business days. Panic came into his chest like ice water. He reached Mercy General. They placed Mia on oxygen. They asked him to sign papers. The computer said, inactive. The desk said, pay. He had already sold the trophies. He had nothing left but his hands and his fear. He called the one person he had no right to call. Aurora answered on the first ring. He said 2 words, Mia and insurance. She said 1 word, where, and then she said, I'm coming. She arrived in 8 minutes with wet hair and a hoodie. She spoke at the nurse's station with a calm that made people move. When the hospital manager appeared, Aurora did not raise her voice. She said, admit the child now. I will personally guarantee every cost. If we delay 1 more minute, I will bring more lawyers than you have chairs. 10 minutes later, Mia was in a room with a pediatric lung doctor and a machine that breathed like the sea. Noah found Aurora in the hall and asked, what did you do? She said, my job, and her face was soft. He hugged her before he could think. She stiffened for a second, then melted, and they stood like that. 2 tired people in a bright corridor, holding a single truth. I'm sorry, she said into his shoulder. for the joke I made that night, for guessing the worst of you, for letting pride wear my face." He pulled back and looked at her, really looked, and saw not a headline but a hurting person who wanted to do one thing right. "I need you too," he said, and it felt like walking onto a new square on the board where the pieces behave with kindness instead of rules. In the morning, Mia was stable enough to watch cartoons and ask for toast. Aurora brought scrambled eggs that tasted like they were made by someone who had not cooked in years. Noah laughed at the face she made when the eggs were too salty. They sat in plastic chairs with bad coffee and spoke like friends. Later that week, Mia came home to a small apartment that now smelled like soup instead of fear. Aurora came by after work with a chess set that you could stick to the table with magnets so the pieces would not fall if someone bumped it. "Do you always win?" Mia asked Aurora as she placed the pawns in a neat line. "I used to think I had to," Aurora said. "Now I think winning is not the best part." "I like the part before someone wins," Mia said, moving her knight, "because anything can happen." Aurora looked at Noah at the stove, where he was burning the grilled cheese a little. He pretended not to listen. She left her queen where Mia's knight could reach it. "You're right," she said. "That is the best part." They played and laughed and did not care who took what. When the dishes were done, Noah and Aurora stood by the window that looked out on the street. "I want to build something," she said. "For kids like Mia, for grandmothers who teach chess on kitchen tables, for families who can't pay entry fees or buy boards." Noah nodded. "A foundation?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Free after-school programs, weekend clubs, lessons, tournaments with no cost, scholarships, coaching jobs for players who lost their careers but not their love." He took her hand, careful and sure. "We could do that," he said. A small smile lit her face from the inside. "We will," she said. The press conference was brief because truth is not a speech, it is a door. Aurora stood at a podium in the same glass tower where the story had started. Cameras blinked. People waited. She did not bring notes. "I made a mistake," she said. "I tried to play life like a chess game you win by taking every piece. I treated a person like a dare. I'm sorry. I have asked myself who I want to be when the power is gone, and this is the answer." She paused and found Noah and Mia standing in the back, next to Priya the guard and a few people from the cleaning crew. "Effective today," Aurora said, "I am stepping down as CEO of Vale Therapeutics." The room crackled. She held up a hand. "The company will be fine. We have smart people and good science. But I have work to do elsewhere. We are starting the Open Hands Chess Project. We will build free chess centers in every neighborhood that needs one. We will fill them with teachers, boards, books, and hope. We will show every child that they can plan 3 moves ahead in a world that sometimes looks like chaos." Questions shouted. She left the stage and walked to Noah and Mia. Mia hugged her around the middle. "You were brave," Mia said again. "I learned it from you," Aurora said. That summer, an old laundromat on 3rd Street became the first Open Hands Center. The windows showed kids leaning over boards like explorers reading maps. Noah ran the coaching program. He did not talk down to anyone. He asked 6-year-olds where they wanted their knights to dance. He taught 10-year-olds to breathe when the board looked scary. He told teenagers that the hardest move is sometimes the one where you put your queen in danger because you trust what comes next. Aurora wrote grants and met with community leaders and found colorful rugs and bright lamps so the room would feel like a home. She hired players who had drifted away from tournaments, people with good hearts and good eyes. She told them, "You matter. We need you." Mia wore a t-shirt that said Junior Coach and taught little kids how to set up the board and say, "Good game," even when they wanted to cry. On Saturdays, they served pancakes and played blitz. On Sundays, they invited grandparents to tell stories about how they learned to play. Money came in from places that usually forgot this part of town. More centers opened, one in a church basement in Westport, one in a library in Brookview, one in a rec room above a grocery store that always smelled like oranges. The news told the story, but the best parts never made it on TV. A shy boy whispering, "check," for the first time. A girl who used to fight on the bus making a plan instead. A father who came for the coffee and stayed for the games, then found a job teaching endgames to middle schoolers. Job teaching endgames to middle schoolers. Life did not turn perfect. It turned honest. There were nights when Mia coughed and the fear came back like a tide. There were days when someone on the internet tried to drag the old story up again and poke it with a stick. There were meetings where Aurora missed the smooth power of the corner office and then remembered that power had not made her feel safe. 1 year later, on a late summer afternoon that smelled like cut grass and warm dirt, Aurora and Noah sat in the small backyard of the house they now shared. They had bought a simple place with blue shutters and a fig tree. Mia read on the steps, feet swinging, the fox beside her. A chessboard sat on the picnic table. The light leaned gold across the pieces. "If I take this," Aurora said, sliding a bishop across the board, "you will lose your queen in 2 moves." Noah grinned and moved his knight anyway. "I know," he said. "This time I want to lose." "Why?" she asked. He nodded toward Mia. "Because when I lose to you, we laugh and play another game. I don't want this to end." Mia looked up and said, "Maybe you both win." They laughed. Aurora reached across and laid her hand on Noah's. She tipped both kings over and let them rest on the board like sleeping birds. "I'm not playing to win anymore," she said. "I'm playing to stay." They kissed, soft and slow, the kind of kiss that says, "We are safe," and "We did not give up." Mia clapped and declared, "Checkmate." Aurora smiled and said, "That's not how it works." And Mia said, "It is when love is the rule." In the quiet that followed, the city hummed beyond the fence, and the future felt like a path they could walk together. The first night had been a dare. The last line was a promise. And that is how "Beat me in chess, I'll kiss you now," the CEO mocked, until the single dad ended it in 3 moves. Became not a headline, but a home.